Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepless Scientist, quiet place in the cosmos where your thoughts can unwind, and knowledge becomes a soft lullaby for the night. Tonight's journey will take us into the tiny invisible worlds inside your body, a place more crowded, more complex, and more miraculous than you might imagine. But before you settle in and get cozy, I'd love if you could take a moment to like this video and subscribe, only if you truly find these quiet explorations enjoyable. And when you're ready, leave a comment to let me know where in the world you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. It's always such a joy to see all the places we gather from, each in our own little slice of time. Now, feel free to dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for a soft background hum, and let's gently begin our journey into your inner cosmos. And if your mind begins to wander, that's perfectly fine. Let it drift. We'll still be here, quietly unfolding the story. Take a slow breath in and out. Now imagine for a moment that you're not just a person resting in a room, but a galaxy in disguise. Not metaphorically, not spiritually, biologically. You're made of trillions of parts, each alive in its own small way. Cells bustling like cities, mitochondria glowing like furnaces, DNA twisting like coded scrolls, and microbes that outnumber your own cells, quietly tending to your digestion and your defense like gardeners in a vast and fragrant greenhouse. You, dear listener, are not one single thing. You are many. And most of the time, you don't even notice. That tickle behind your ear, that's your skin renewing itself, shedding and replacing tiny flakes like fallen snow. That warmth in your belly, that's mitochondria, turning food into energy. Heat from the furnace rooms of your body. That calm you felt after a hug or a laugh, that's oxytocin, whispering between cells like a soft lullaby of trust. Inside your veins, blood flows more than 60,000 miles of vessels, an inner highway that connects every hidden village. Each red blood cell carries oxygen to the furthest reaches of your body. Each white blood cell patrols for danger. Hormones travel these rivers like quiet messengers, bringing news and instructions, keeping order, repairing what breaks, and stirring what needs to begin. And even deeper, beneath the rivers and chambers, DNA waits, silent, coiled, ancient. It holds the pattern of your jaw, the shape of your hands, the way your cells fold proteins and recognize light. But even this code is not fixed. It can shift with your life, responding to your choices, your sleep, your stress, your meals. It adapts, not like a computer, but like a garden, quietly, slowly, without announcement. Your microbes, your cells, your blood, your nerves, your skin, none of them speak in words. Yet together they create a kind of music, steady, complex, and profoundly coordinated. There is no conductor, no central mind controlling the symphony, and yet it plays moment by moment, day by day, with hardly a mistake, even as you sleep, especially as you sleep, and sleep, well, that too is part of the design. Tonight, we'll explore each layer of your inner world in turn. The microbes that make up your invisible community, the cells that are your building blocks, the mitochondria that keep your fire lit, the DNA that holds your past and your potential, the hormones that regulate your mood, your energy, and your dreams, the blood that never stops moving, the nerves that crackle and rest, the skin that keeps you safe and sensing, and the way it all comes together, like a quietly breathing universe with you at its center. You don't need to remember it all. You don't need to stay awake. You're not here for a quiz. You're here for comfort, for wonder, for the feeling that even when you're doing nothing, even when you're still and drowsy, something beautiful's happening inside you. So as we begin this gentle journey, let your attention soften, let your breath settle, and know this, you're not alone in your body. You're accompanied by trillions of lives, trillions of stories, trillions of tiny, tireless dancers performing a ballet just beneath your skin. Welcome to the invisible worlds inside you. Beneath your skin, behind every breath, beyond every heartbeat, there is another world. A world that doesn't belong to you, not entirely, and yet it lives inside you. It thrives, pulses, and hums in quiet partnership with everything you are. Welcome to your microbiome, an invisible ecosystem made of bacteria, fungi, archaea, viruses, and other tiny organisms that have been with you from the very beginning. It might feel strange to imagine yourself as a host to trillions of microscopic guests, but in truth they're not really guests at all. They're residents. They've made your body their home. In fact, they outnumber your own cells by at least a modest margin. Some estimates say 39 trillion microbes to your 30 trillion human cells. And even if we were to weigh them all together, this tiny population adds up to just about 3 pounds, roughly the weight of your brain. A quiet, living mass tucked into every crevice and corner of your body. You might be wondering where they live. They're not tucked away in one neat little compartment like a library of microscopic volumes. No. Your microbiome is spread across a landscape, diverse neighbourhoods with different needs, textures and climates. The gut is the most famous address, especially the large intestine, where the bacterial population blooms in astonishing numbers. It's warm, nutrient-rich, and relatively undisturbed, a perfect home for microbial communities that help digest food, produce vitamins, and fend off invaders. Then there's the skin, the outer borderland exposed to light, air, soap, sweat, and touch. Each patch of skin hosts its own population. Microbes on the dry, desert-like surface of your forearm are not the same as those in the damp, sheltered forests of your armpits or behind your knees. Inside the mouth, there's an entire metropolis. Teeth, gums, cheeks, and tongue all play host to colonies of microbes, constantly in motion, influenced by food, brushing, breathing, and talking. Even the lungs, long thought to be sterile, now reveal a gentle scattering of microbial life, their balance crucial for healthy breathing and immune tolerance. Each of these regions is like a biome, a rainforest, a tundra, a savanna, all with their own species, weather and inhabitants. And you, strange as it may sound, are the terrain they walk upon. But don't worry, they're not freeloaders. In fact, many of them are essential. You wouldn't survive without them, and they wouldn't survive without you. It's a relationship that's older than language. Microbes have been here long before humans, long before mammals, long before leaves and lungs. Some of the species in your gut have existed for millions of years, passed on through generations, adapted to life inside warm-bodied hosts like you. In the quiet hours of night, when your conscious mind is at rest, your microbiome is wide awake, digesting fibres you cannot break down, fermenting nutrients into useful chemicals, nudging your immune system and quietly shaping your sense of health and balance. You don't feel them, you don't hear them, but they're always there, doing what they do best. There's something humbling about that. You're not alone in your body. You're a host, a habitat, and a partnership. And in this tiny world beneath your awareness, peace is not the absence of life. It's the presence of balance. So tonight, as we continue deeper, just imagine this invisible garden. Not wild, not chaotic, but coordinated, carefully tended, evolving with you, adapting to your diet, your mood, your breath. A secret world, one that exists entirely inside of you. Imagine sitting down to eat. A warm bowl of soup, a crust of bread, perhaps something green and leafy on the side. You chew, you swallow, and that food begins its journey down through your body. But here's the quiet twist. You are not the only one digesting it. Waiting in the depths of your gut, trillions of microbes spring into action. Like chefs and chemists in the dark, they break down what you cannot. Fibres, resistant starches, certain sugars, and transform them into nourishing substances your body can actually use. These microbial helpers are especially skilled at fermenting fibres into something called short-chain fatty acids, like acetate, propionate, and butyrate. The names may sound obscure, but their role is anything but minor. These acids feed the cells that line your colon. They reduce inflammation. They help regulate your immune system. And some even whisper messages to your brain. Without your microbes, a large part of your dinner would simply pass through undigested. But with them, your meal becomes part of you, broken down, transformed and shared. They're not only digesters, they're also defenders. Picture your gut lining for a moment, not just a tube, but a border. One that's constantly monitoring what passes through and what must be kept out. Your microbes help maintain this barrier, producing substances that reinforce the intestinal wall and crowding out less friendly organisms that might try to invade. They even communicate with your immune system directly, like quiet advisors offering updates from the front lines. In fact, a large portion of your immune cells reside in your gut, forming a close alliance with the microbiota. The two systems evolve together, learn from each other, and maintain a delicate peace. When something threatens that balance, a harmful bacterium, a virus, or even a sudden shift in diet, your microbiome responds. It adjusts its populations, signals your immune system to prepare. It becomes, in a sense, your first responder. And this partnership doesn't begin in adulthood, it begins at birth. If you were born vaginally, your very first dose of microbes likely came as you entered the world, coated in bacteria from your mother's birth canal. If you were born by caesarean, your initial microbes may have come from the hospital room, the skin of caregivers, or the surrounding environment. Either way, your microbiome story started early, and it started fast. Breast milk too plays a role. It contains not only nutrients for babies, but also prebiotics. Special sugars designed not for the baby, but for the baby's microbes. Nature doesn't just feed the child, it feeds the child's ecosystem. As you grew, your microbiome shifted. Crawling on floors, putting things in your mouth, playing outside, all these messy, ordinary experiences helped populate your internal garden. Every hug, every shared spoon, every sniff of a dog's fur, an exchange of microscopic life. And today, though you may not think about them often, your microbes still respond to everything you do. What you eat, how much you sit and sleep, whether you're stressed, whether you're ill, even your travel patterns. Take a long trip and your gut bacteria will shift in composition like a population adjusting to a new climate. It's easy to forget that digestion and immunity are not just mechanical processes, they're deeply collaborative. You are not a lone machine, you're a symbiotic being. And while that may sound like science fiction, like something out of a strange novel, it's simply biology. Your microbes don't speak your language, but they work with you every day, silently, reliably, elegantly. So the next time you eat a meal, consider this. You're not feeding one creature. You're feeding a community, and every bite you take shapes who thrives inside you, and in turn, how you thrive in the world. The microbes are not here by accident. They are your partners in digestion and your guardians at the gates. And without them, the story of your health would be missing 1,000 silent chapters. Your microbiome is not just a collection of helpful hitchhikers, it's a signature, a fingerprint, a biological biography written in trillions of tiny lives. No two microbiomes are exactly alike. Even identical twins who share the same DNA can have significantly different microbial communities. That's because while your genes are inherited, your microbes are gathered, shaped, curated by the life you live, every place you've been, every hand you've held, every meal you've enjoyed. These quiet choices leave microbial echoes. Think of your body like a landscape and your microbes as the wildflowers, mosses and fungi that grow there. What thrives depends on the climate, your diet, your stress levels, how often you move, how deeply you sleep. Whether you've taken antibiotics, whether you live in a city or a forest or somewhere in between. Even your pets leave their signature. A dog in your home might mean more diversity in your skin and gut microbiota. A life spent in close contact with nature brings a different blend of microbial guests than one spent mostly indoors. What you eat, especially, is like a gardener's hand. Fibres from vegetables, fruits, legumes and whole grains tend to nourish a broader, more diverse microbial community. Diets heavy in processed foods, added sugars or artificial ingredients may favour a few hardy species, but reduce overall richness. And in this hidden world, richness matters. A more diverse microbiome is often a more stable one, more resilient, better equipped to weather illness or change. Stress also plays a role, not the dramatic kind, but the quiet, chronic tensions that many of us carry. These can alter the gut environment, leading to shifts in microbial composition. Some species become more dominant, others shrink away. The inner balance, once steady, begins to wobble. Even sleep influences your microbiome. Irregular sleep patterns, especially when sustained over time, can disrupt not only your circadian rhythm, but the rhythms of the microbes that live inside you. Yes, they too seem to follow patterns. Cycles of activity, rest, fermentation, and repair that mirror your own biological tides. Antibiotics, for all their life-saving power, also bring a certain cost. They don't discriminate between good and bad bacteria. A course of antibiotics can dramatically reduce the diversity of your gut flora, sometimes wiping out entire populations that took years to establish. Recovery is possible, but slow. It's a bit like burning down a forest. The land may remain, but the intricate ecosystems take time to return. This is why scientists now speak of the microbiome not just as a helpful system, but as a core part of your identity, not just biologically, but ecologically, emotionally, perhaps even psychologically. Researchers have begun to notice links between certain microbial compositions and behaviours. Tendencies toward anxiety, depression, focus, calm. We're still unravelling the details, but the early findings are compelling. It's as if your microbes don't just live inside you, they participate in who you are. And maybe that's the most extraordinary idea of all, that deep within your body lives a symphony of life that is entirely yours, built by your habits, nourished by your food, tuned by your emotions. It's not something you inherit, it's something you create every day without even thinking about it. Of course, it's never about perfection. Your microbiome will shift over time, sometimes gently, sometimes dramatically. Illness, travel, a new relationship, a change in diet, they all leave their mark. And that's not something to fear. It simply means your inner world is alive, responsive, in motion. You're not fixed. You're a landscape in quiet bloom, and that in the end is what makes you unique. There is a quiet conversation happening in your body, not with words, not with gestures, but with chemicals, electrical pulses, and invisible signals passed from one system to another, like whispered secrets in the dark. This is the dialogue between your gut, your brain, and your immune system, and it happens constantly without your awareness. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it shapes your emotions. It guards your health. It may even influence who you believe yourself to be. At the heart of this conversation is the vagus nerve, a long, winding communicator that stretches from your brainstem down to your gut, touching the heart, lungs, and digestive tract along the way. The name vagus comes from the Latin for wandering, and that's precisely what it does. It wanders through your body like a soft traveller, gathering impressions, relaying signals, and helping different organs stay in sync. Roughly 80% of the vagus nerve's fibres run from your gut up to your brain, not the other way around. That simple fact changes everything. It means that your gut is not just following orders, it's sending messages, emotional messages, immune messages, messages shaped in part by your microbiome. Inside your intestines, trillions of microbes are busy digesting, fermenting, and interacting with the lining of your gut wall. In the process, they produce a range of neuroactive compounds, chemicals that can influence your mood and behaviour. Some of these microbes help synthesize serotonin, a neurotransmitter often associated with feelings of calm and well-being. In fact, about 90% of your body's serotonin is produced in the gut, not in the brain. Other microbial byproducts like short-chain fatty acids don't just nourish the gut lining. They also signal immune cells, calm inflammation, and may even influence how the blood-brain barrier functions. That barrier, which separates your brain from the rest of your bloodstream, is essential for mental clarity and protection from harmful substances. And yet tiny microbial whispers seem able to influence it. So when people speak of a gut feeling, why, it might be more than metaphor. The gut truly feels. It remembers, it signals, and your brain listens. Meanwhile, your immune system is tuning in too. Roughly 70% of your immune cells are clustered around your digestive tract, quietly watching for patterns. These cells don't just fight infections, they learn, they adapt, and the microbiome is their greatest teacher. It helps immune cells learn the difference between friend and foe, between harmless pollen and dangerous bacteria. When the microbial balance is healthy, the immune system tends to be calm and discerning. When the balance is disrupted by stress and poor diet, it can become anxious, overreacting, even attacking the body itself. This triangle, gut, brain, immune system, is sometimes called the gut-brain immune axis. It's a network of influence, not a single line of command. And your microbes are in the middle, shaping the conversation in countless tiny ways. It's a gentle system, but not a fragile one. It's adaptive, like a forest that adjusts to changing seasons. Still, when it gets out of sync, the effects can ripple outward. Digestive discomfort, foggy thoughts, low mood, chronic inflammation. These aren't separate problems. They're often signals from the same shared network struggling to regain harmony. The good news, small changes matter. A little more fire, a bit more sleep, a deep breath, a walk outside. These simple acts don't just feel good. They change the conversation inside you. Your microbes respond. Your gut settles. Your immune system steadies. Your brain sighs in relief. And you may feel just a little more like yourself again. It's strange to think that something as intangible as your mood could be shaped by something as physical and as small as bacteria. But it's not strange to your body. It's simply how it works. So tonight, as you rest, imagine this elegant web of connection. Picture your vagus nerve like a ribbon of light winding through your body, carrying signals like song. Picture your microbes as a crowd of quiet translators, converting meals into messages, calm into chemistry. Picture your immune cells like careful watchers at the gates, guided by ancient microbial advice. You're not just a body with separate parts. You're a network of communication, a symphony of signals. And even now, while you lie still and listen, your inner world is humming with connection. Imagine zooming in, not with a camera, not with a microscope, but with your mind. Gently, slowly, you shrink down, past the skin, past the capillaries, past the tangled nerves and humming blood. You arrive at something small, round, soft-edged, floating quietly in a watery world, a single cell. It might surprise you to know that this small, delicate structure is where your life began, not as a baby, not even as a fertilized egg, but as a single living cell, already busy with purpose. From that moment it divided and divided again, unfolding like origami into complexity, until there were trillions of cells all descended from that first one. And together, they became you. Each cell is like a tiny self, complete, aware of its role, doing its part without complaint. Most are only about 10 microns wide. That's about 100 times smaller than the width of a human hair. You could line up 10,000 across the head of a pin and still have room to spare. And yet, despite their size, they are worlds in themselves. At the centre of many cells is the nucleus, a small dense sphere that holds the DNA, like a sealed library of instructions. Not all cells have a nucleus, but most do. It's where the script for your body is stored, not read all at once, but carefully, selectively, depending on the cell's purpose. Surrounding that is the cytoplasm, a jelly-like interior where all the action happens. Imagine a calm pond on a warm evening filled with floating platforms, cables and tiny moving dots. This is where energy is made, waste is processed and proteins are assembled. It's not chaotic, it's coordinated, though the coordination feels more like a murmuration of birds than a factory floor. Fluid, adaptive, alive. And wrapping it all together is the cell membrane. Thin, flexible, intelligent. It doesn't just hold everything in, it decides what gets in and what stays out. Nutrients pass through, signals arrive, waste leaves. But only when permitted. The membrane is not a wall. It's a gatekeeper, always listening, always filtering. You might picture a cell like a balloon, soft and wobbly. But it's more like a soap bubble with purpose. A bubble that senses, absorbs and responds. It's surrounded by receptors, little antennae that detect what's happening outside. When something changes, heat, pH, nearby hormones, the cell adjusts. It listens to its neighbours. It joins the chorus. And though one cell might seem unremarkable, when multiplied, they form something astonishing. Your tissues, your organs, your body. Some cells live just a few days. Others, like certain neurons, might last your entire life. Some divide constantly. Others never divide again. Some travel, some stay fixed in place. Some send signals, others stretch, pull, absorb or attack. But every single one is alive, not just metaphorically, truly alive, breathing, eating, making choices, however simple. There are over 200 different types of cells in your body, and each one is tailored for its task. Yet they all share the same basic architecture, the same language, the same tools. It's as if every cell is a variation on a theme written in the same musical key. When we look at ourselves in the mirror, we see skin, eyes, hair. But beneath that reflection is a quiet miracle. Trillions of microscopic selves, working not for fame, not for recognition, but because that's what life does. It continues. Softly, steadily. It's humbling to think of yourself this way, not as one being, but as a collective, a community of cells, each with its own task, its own rhythm, like fireflies blinking in the grass, like a murmured conversation in a crowded room. You are not one life, you are many, and every one of your cells carries the memory of where you came from. That first cell, that first moment, that spark that became a system. It's still here in a way, echoed in every heartbeat, every breath, every blink. A small thing, but real and quietly magnificent. Inside each of your cells, beneath that soft, listening membrane and floating within the gentle jelly of the cytoplasm, is a quiet flurry of activity. Not chaotic, not noisy, but purposeful. Like a library where every visitor knows exactly what they came to do. These structures inside the cell are called organelles, tiny specialised units that carry out the essential work of life. The word means little organs, and that's what they are. Just as your body has a heart to pump blood and lungs to draw in air, your cells have internal parts that build, process, transport and recycle, each with its own task, and each humming with silent precision. Let's begin with the ribosomes. These are the builders, the protein assembly teams. You can find them either floating freely in the cytoplasm or attached to something called the endoplasmic reticulum, a folded ribbon-like structure that stretches through the cell like a winding hallway. Ribosomes read messages sent from the nucleus and use them to stitch together proteins, one amino acid at a time. No drama, no delay, just quiet, steady construction. And what are these proteins? Everything. Truly. Proteins are the workers, the messengers, the defenders, the enzymes, the scaffolding. Your body is built from proteins, and your cells are always making more, each one shaped precisely for its job. Next, let's visit the endoplasmic reticulum, or ER. There are two kinds, rough and smooth. The rough ER is covered with ribosomes and specialises in folding and packaging newly made proteins. The smooth ER, on the other hand, helps build lipids, fats and hormones. and plays a role in detoxifying the cell, like a tiny chemical safety officer. Once a protein is built and folded, it needs to go somewhere. That's where the Golgi apparatus comes in. It looks a bit like a stack of pancakes or a pile of soft ribbons, and its job is to tag, sort and send a package center, a post office. The Golgi modifies proteins, wraps them in little vesicles, tiny bubbles, and ships them to where they're needed, either inside the cell or out into the wider body. But with all this building and sending, there's also a need for cleanup. Waste, old materials, broken parts. That's the role of the lysosomes, the recyclers. These are filled with enzymes that can break down just about anything the cell no longer needs. Not with aggression, but with care. They dismantle old structures, digest invaders, and recycle the materials for reuse. It's quiet housekeeping, and it's essential. Then there's the cytoskeleton, a network of microscopic fibres that gives the cell its shape and helps it move, stretch, and transport cargo. Imagine a scaffold made of thread. The cytoskeleton isn't fixed. It reshapes itself constantly, adjusting to the cell's needs. When a vesicle needs to travel from one end of the cell to another, tiny molecular motors walk it along these filaments like delivery carts on invisible tracks. Of course, all this work requires energy, and while we'll explore the mitochondria in detail soon, it's worth noting that every organelle, every movement, every signal depends on a steady supply of fuel. Nothing happens in a cell without energy, and energy must be made, carried, and used efficiently. You might think of a cell as a miniature city. The nucleus is the city hall. The ribosomes are a construction crews. The ER is a factory. The Golgi is the postal service. The lysosomes are sanitation. The cytoskeleton is roads and infrastructure. And the mitochondria, the power plants. But unlike a city, there's no mayor. No traffic lights, no spoken orders. Everything is coordinated by chemistry, by gradients, by charges, by molecules fitting into receptors like keys into locks. It's elegant, it's quiet, and it's astonishingly consistent. What's even more beautiful is that this is happening in every single cell in your body right now. Whether it's a skin cell at the surface of your hand, a liver cell working through your dinner, or a brain cell holding onto a thought. You are filled with these tiny cooperative structures doing their jobs with tireless grace. And the best part? You never have to think about it. You don't wake up and tell your cells to make proteins. You don't remind your Golgi apparatus to sort packages. You don't have to supervise your lysosomes or check in on your cytoskeleton. Your cells do all of this on their own, not because they were taught, but because they are built to. This is the comfort and the wonder of biology. That within you is a world of quiet systems that serve you endlessly, not out of duty, not out of will, but simply because that's what life does. It works, it flows, it tends to itself. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by the complexity of life on the outside, remember the calm that exists inside. Your cells aren't in a rush, they're not anxious, they're just working gently, silently, always. If every cell shares the same basic blueprint, membrane, cytoplasm, organelles, then why do they look, act and function so differently? The answer lies in the quiet elegance of specialization. From that first dividing cell you once were, a kind of branching decision tree began to unfold. Some daughter cells became builders, others messengers, some learned to stretch and contract, others learned to listen or to kill or to glow. These cells inherited the same DNA, but like musicians in an orchestra, they chose different instruments, different parts of the same score. Let's meet a few of them. Start with the muscle cells, long, lean and strong. They don't look like the round blob-like cells you often see in textbooks. No, muscle cells are more like fibres. Stretched across your limbs and heart, they contract and relax, in a rhythm so ancient and steady that you rarely even notice. You walk, blink, smile, breathe, all because these slender cells are built to move, and when you're still, they wait. Ready. Then there are neurons, the communicators. They look like something out of a dream. Star-shaped bodies with long branching arms. One arm, called the axon, can stretch over a metre long in your body. These cells specialise in transmitting electrical signals quickly and precisely from one part of the body to another. A decision made in your brain, say to wiggle a toe, travels down a neuron highway with barely a pause. And at the synapse, where one neuron ends and another begins, a delicate chemical handshake carries the signal forward. Immune cells, by contrast, are agile and ever watchful. Some crawl through tissues, tasting and testing their environment. Others patrol the bloodstream like quiet guardians, looking for signs of invasion or damage. When danger appears, these cells shift shapes, release chemicals, and call for reinforcements. One might engulf a pathogen. Another might mark it for destruction. They work not in isolation, but as a system, communicating, remembering, adapting. Your skin cells form layers, tight and orderly. The outermost ones, called keratinocytes, die shortly after rising to the surface, forming a tough, protective barrier. They're not glamorous, but they're essential. They keep moisture in, keep microbes out, and when damaged, they orchestrate repair, sealing cuts, growing new tissue, fading scars over time. Beneath them lie pigment cells, immune cells, and touch-sensitive nerve endings, all working together to create the feeling of you. And then, deep within your bones, there's a quiet factory where blood cells are born. Red blood cells begin life like any other, but as they mature, they do something extraordinary. They eject their nucleus, giving up their DNA in exchange for more space to carry oxygen. These disc-shaped travellers live only about 20 days, endlessly flowing through arteries and veins, picking up oxygen from your lungs and delivering it to every cell that asks. White blood cells, on the other hand, keep their nucleus. They remain vigilant, ready to fight. Some live only hours, others persist for years, remembering past infections so they can respond more quickly next time. And then there are platelets, tiny fragment-like cells that race to the site of injury and help your blood clot. They don't have nuclei at all. They are in a sense pieces of a larger cell repurposed into emergency responders. This is the beauty of cellular diversity. Form follows function. Muscle cells are long because they must pull. Neurons are branched because they must connect. Red blood cells are flexible because they must squeeze through narrow capillaries. Immune cells are shapeshifters because they must navigate complex terrain. And though they look different, act different, even live for vastly different spans of time, they all arise from the same source, the same DNA, the same fundamental cell division. What changes is which genes are active, which parts of the recipe are read. It's not unlike writing different kinds of stories using the same alphabet. The letters don't change, the meaning does. Within your body, every moment these diverse cells coordinate their efforts, not with a master plan, not with instructions from above, but with signals, feedback, and a shared understanding of place. They listen to each other, they respond, and somehow, without ever stepping back to see the big picture, they create it. And you are that picture. You are a layered landscape of specialization, harmony of differences, each cell type playing its part in the quiet symphony of your existence. And perhaps the most incredible part is this. You don't need to manage any of it. The design takes care of itself, you simply live. Even the smallest lives have a rhythm, a beginning, a season of work, and then gently a fading. Cells are no exception. From the moment they're born through a process of division, they begin a quiet journey. Not dramatic, not fast, but deliberate. Cells grow, they carry out their roles, and when the time is right, they either divide again or they let go. This pattern is called the cell cycle, and it's happening inside you right now. In your skin, in your digestive tract, in your blood. Every second, millions of cells are replicating, doubling their contents, splitting, creating new versions of themselves to replace the old. This division is called mitosis, and it's one of the most carefully choreographed events in all of biology. Before a cell divides, it first copies its DNA, every single one of its billions of base pairs, like transcribing an enormous library without making a single mistake. Then it lines up those copies and gently pulls them apart, parceling them into 2 new daughter cells. Each new cell receives the full instructions, sealed within a fresh nucleus, ready to begin its work. It's not unlike watching dancers perform a practice routine, each step placed with care, each movement unfolding in time. Only this dance is microscopic, and it happens trillions of times over a lifetime. Not all cells divide, of course. Neurons in your brain rarely do. Some muscle cells too remain in place for decades, but others, like the cells in your gut lining or the white blood cells in your bloodstream, divide constantly, responding to wear, injury or need. And when their work is done, cells don't simply vanish. Many undergo a process called apoptosis, kind of programmed self-dismantling. This isn't a violent ending, it's careful, peaceful. The cell shrinks, wraps itself in a membrane and signals nearby immune cells to come and recycle its parts. No inflammation, no damage, just a quiet closing of the curtain. Apoptosis is essential. Without it, damaged or aging cells might linger too long. They can become disorganized, confused, even dangerous. But when the process works as it should, the body remains clean, balanced, and in motion. It's a bit like autumn in a forest. Leaves fall not because the tree is dying, but because it's preparing for what comes next. Cells too let go, so that others may take their place. Sometimes, of course, things don't go as planned. If the cell cycle becomes uncontrolled, if cells divide too quickly, refuse to die, or ignore their surroundings, diseases like cancer can emerge. These are exceptions, not the rule, but they remind us how delicate the balance can be, how carefully life must tune itself even at the smallest scale. Still, most of the time your cells do it right. They grow when they should, rest when needed, divide with care, and end with grace. And the result of all this silent turnover? You. Your skin, renewed every few weeks, your gut lining, refreshed every few days, your blood constantly replenished. Even your bones, once thought fixed, are subtly reshaped by living cells that respond to pressure, movement, and time. You are in many ways not the same person you were a year ago, at least not at the cellular level. Most of your cells have been replaced. The old ones are gone. Their work, their energy now lives on in others. And yet, you're still you. There's something oddly comforting about that. That change can happen so quietly. That renewal can occur without fanfare. That endings, even small ones, can be gentle. So tonight, as you rest, know that your cells are tending to themselves, replacing what needs to be replaced, clearing what no longer serves, preparing for tomorrow with the same patience they've shown for years. You don't need to guide them. You don't need to understand every detail. You just need to be, and let your body do what it knows best. There's a quiet kind of fire burning inside you. Not the kind that crackles or roars, but a steady glow, patient, enduring. You don't see it. You don't feel it directly, but it powers everything you do. Every blink, every heartbeat, every thought that drifts across your mind as you lie here, breathing softly in the dark. This fire lives inside your cells, and its name is mitochondria. If you were to zoom into almost any cell in your body, skin, muscle, brain, blood, you'd find these tiny structures floating gently in the cytoplasm, bean-shaped, wrapped in a delicate double membrane. They don't look like much, but inside something remarkable is happening. Here, within the folds of their inner membrane, your mitochondria are performing a task so essential that life without it simply isn't possible. They're taking oxygen, the very breath you just inhaled, and using it to unlock energy from the food you've eaten. Glucose, fatty acids, amino acids, all broken down into simple molecules that feed into a chemical process called cellular respiration. This process produces a molecule called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. ATP is, in essence, your body's energy currency. It's what fuels your muscles, your nerves, your thoughts, your repair processes, your dreams. Every cell needs it, every moment depends on it. And most of it is made here, in the mitochondria, by a process that could be described as breathing without lungs. You breathe to bring oxygen into your bloodstream, but it's your mitochondria that use that oxygen to create usable energy. They are the ones who finish the work, and they do it tirelessly. Each of your cells contains hundreds, sometimes thousands of these mitochondria, and each one produces billions of ATP molecules every day, quietly, consistently, without pause. You might imagine them like tiny furnaces, burning the fuel of your meals, keeping the lights on in every microscopic room of your body, or like glowing lanterns scattered through your cells, lighting the way for life to continue. And yet, despite their importance, they are almost invisible. They don't have a voice, they don't move with grandeur, but they are, in every sense, the heartbeat beneath the heartbeat. When you feel warm after eating, when your body hums after a good sleep, when your mind sharpens just slightly after a breath of fresh air, your mitochondria are at work. And even when you sleep, even when your body lies still, your cells don't stop. Your heart continues, your brain replays memories, your liver restores, and through it all, mitochondria continue to breathe, silently creating ATP so your body can heal, remember, and rebuild. There's something deeply comforting in that you carry within you a source of energy so loyal, so constant, that it never rests. It doesn't ask for your attention. It doesn't wait for gratitude. It just works, always. But this work isn't without grace. Mitochondria don't simply churn out energy like machines. They respond. When a cell needs more energy during exercise, stress, growth, they increase production. When a cell is at rest, they slow down. Their rhythm follows yours. Not with panic, with precision. They are your inner fire, but also your inner breath. Because while lungs may fill with air, it's in your mitochondria that oxygen becomes action. You could go weeks without food, days without water, but only minutes without oxygen. That's how vital this process is, how tightly your life is tethered to this invisible chemistry, flickering inside you like a candle that never goes out. So tonight, as you lie still, you are not truly inactive. Your cells are alive with lightless fire, breathing without breath, burning quietly, and you, though resting, are powered by something ancient, something miraculous, something small. You are glowing from within. Long before your body ever took shape, before bones, blood, breath, or thought, there were bacteria. Simple, ancient, single-celled life, floating in oceans, soaking in sunlight, dividing in silence. And once, just once, one of those cells did something extraordinary. It invited another in. We don't know if it was accident or necessity. Perhaps one engulfed the other. Perhaps one found shelter within the other. But instead of digesting the guest, the host kept it. And over time, this partnership deepened. The guest became a resident. The resident became a helper. And the helper became essential. This is the quiet origin story of your mitochondria. According to the endosymbiotic theory, the mitochondria inside your cells today were once free-living bacteria, independent organisms capable of converting oxygen and nutrients into usable energy. But that long-ago merger, perhaps over 1.5 billion years ago, changed everything. It created a new kind of cell, one with internal compartments, one capable of complexity. It was, in a way, the first act of biological cooperation, and it worked so well that it became the foundation for all multicellular life. Today, mitochondria still carry whispers of their past. They have their own DNA, small, circular, and distinct from the DNA in your cell's nucleus. It's not just a relic, it's a signature, a mark of their former independence. And unlike nuclear DNA, which you inherit from both parents, mitochondrial DNA comes only from your mother. That means the mitochondria in every cell of your body once lived inside her. And before that, in your grandmother. And before that, in a line of mothers stretching back through time, through history, through migrations, through civilizations, through the first mammals, the first warm-blooded creatures, the first vertebrates to leave the sea. You carry within you a matrilineal thread of fire, an unbroken chain of living energy passed from mother to child, cell to cell, generation to generation, not as metaphor, as biology. And this DNA, though small, is powerful. It codes for key components of the mitochondrial machinery. Without it, the energy-making process breaks down. Mutations here can lead to inherited diseases, rare, often severe, but they also tell us just how essential this tiny genome still is. After all these eons, your cells still rely on the whispers of once independent bacterium. What makes this story even more beautiful is its quiet humility. Mitochondria didn't conquer the cell. They didn't dominate. They adapted. They gave up control of many of their original genes, passing them to the nucleus, and in doing so became part of something larger. They chose cooperation over control, and this cooperation made everything else possible. Muscles that contract, brains that think, bodies that grow, all because one cell welcomed another and found a better way forward, together. You might think of your mitochondria as adopted ancestors. They weren't born of you, and yet they live in you. They carry not only energy, but memory. Evolutionary memory, a reminder that partnership is older than war, that unity can create complexity, that life doesn't always expand by force, but sometimes by invitation. And as you rest tonight, you might even picture them, not just as bean-shaped powerhouses, but as ancient travellers, hitchhikers from a distant time, still alive, still helping, still burning oxygen into energy in the deepest chambers of your cells. You are modern, complex, human. But inside you lives something far older, something that remembers the ocean, the heat, the first cell to breathe, and it's still breathing now. No flame burns forever, not even the ones inside you. The mitochondria, those ancient engines of energy, those silent breathers of oxygen, are resilient but not immortal. Over time, like all parts of your body, they change, they slow, they falter, they accumulate wear, and in doing so they shape how you age. It's not a collapse, it's a softening, a gradual dimming of the metabolic fire that once blazed through your growing bones, your teenage muscles, your dreaming brain. As the decades pass, your mitochondria begin to show signs of use, subtle, silent, and cumulative. Every time your mitochondria generate energy, they handle oxygen. And while that oxygen is essential, it can also be reactive. Occasionally it escapes control and forms what are known as reactive oxygen species, tiny molecular sparks that can damage surrounding components, including the mitochondria themselves. Your cells are equipped with antioxidants and repair systems to keep this in check. But the process isn't perfect. Over time, damage accumulates. Small mutations appear in mitochondrial DNA. Membranes become less efficient. The energy output dips. This doesn't mean your mitochondria stop. It just means they become less crisp, less responsive, a little more tired. And because mitochondria are responsible for powering nearly every cellular function, movement, thought, repair, defense, this slow decline touches every part of your body. Muscles weaken, memory blurs, healing slows. Not because anything is broken, but because the power supply is no longer as bright. This is one of the quiet undercurrents of aging. Not a single switch flipping off, but a slow dimming of many switches, all at once. A gradual reduction in metabolic tempo. In some cases, when the decline is more severe or more sudden, it's linked to illness, fatigue, neurodegeneration, heart disease. Conditions like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's have shown connections to mitochondrial dysfunction, though these relationships are complex and still unfolding in research. But even outside of disease, this story remains tender. It is the story of cells doing their best for as long as they can, then gently yielding. Still, your mitochondria are not passive victims of time. They're adaptive. When you move your body, walk, stretch, breathe deeply, you signal to your cells that energy is needed. And mitochondria respond. They multiply, they become more efficient, they rise to meet the challenge. Even in older adults, consistent physical activity has been shown to increase mitochondrial number and function. Like stoking a fire that still has coals, the body remembers how to glow brighter. Sleep too matters. During deep rest, your cells perform maintenance. Mitochondria remove damaged parts. They reset. In the quiet hours, your body tends to its engines. And nourishment, especially diets rich in plants, healthy fats and unprocessed foods, can help reduce oxidative stress. Feed the fire gently, and it lasts longer. There's no way to stop time, of course, but you can walk alongside it. Not fighting, not denying, but listening, responding, respecting the natural shift in rhythm. Your mitochondria, after all, have been working since before you were born. Long before your first step, long before your first memory. They have never taken a break, they have never paused. So if they're a little slower now, a little softer, they've earned that. And they're still with you. You're glowing gently. Powering your quiet thoughts as you lie here, feeling the weight of blankets, the rhythm of your breath. You don't need to light a fire. You already have one. It may flicker, but it remains steady, faithful, alive. When you think of mitochondria, you might imagine them as fixed, quietly glowing beads inside the cell, stationary furnaces churning out energy. But mitochondria are not still. They are restless, in the gentlest sense of the word. Always shifting, always sensing, always adapting to the ever-changing needs of the cell around them. They move, they split apart, they fuse together. And this dance is not random, it's deeply intelligent. A kind of choreography that keeps your cells balanced, fueled and alert, without you ever noticing. This process of reshaping is called mitochondrial dynamics, and it's as beautiful as it sounds. When energy demand increases, say during physical activity, recovery from illness, or even during periods of deep thought, mitochondria often undergo fusion. That means two or more mitochondria join together, combining their inner contents like rivers merging. This fusion helps them share resources, repair small internal problems, and boost efficiency. A stronger flame, made by gathering smaller sparks. But sometimes, it's the opposite that's needed. When a mitochondrion becomes damaged, or when the cell is preparing for division or change, mitochondria undergo fission, splitting into smaller parts. This division helps isolate and remove broken components, allowing for targeted repair or recycling. It also makes distribution easier, ensuring that daughter cells receive enough power stations when the time comes. This constant push and pull, fusion and fission, is how your cells fine-tune their power supply. It's not dramatic, not loud, but it's essential, and it happens continuously inside nearly every cell in your body. What makes it even more remarkable is that this movement is responsive. Your mitochondria can sense when a part of the cell is struggling, when energy is low, when calcium levels spike, when oxygen is scarce, and they move toward the problem. Sometimes travelling along cellular filaments like passengers on microscopic trains, drawn toward need like moths to a distant light. If damage is too great, mitochondria can trigger self-destruct sequences, either isolating and recycling themselves through a process called mitophagy, or alerting the cell to initiate apoptosis. This isn't failure, it's maintenance. It's renewal, like trimming a branch to help the tree grow stronger. In fact, research has shown that disruptions to this mitochondrial dance, when fission or fusion are out of balance, are linked to several illnesses, neurodegenerative diseases, metabolic disorders, even some forms of cancer. which only deepens our appreciation for the silent choreography that keeps us whole. You don't need to see this to benefit from it. When you stretch after a long day, your mitochondria respond. When you breathe deeply, when you nourish yourself, when you sleep, they adjust, they reshape, they distribute, always adjusting the flame to match the weather of your body. And when life changes through growth, stress, illness, or healing, they change too, not with panic, not with resistance, but with quiet adaptability. That is their nature, their wisdom. So the mitochondria inside you are not just engines. They are dancers, movers, listeners. They do not cling to form, they do not stay still. They trust the pattern of motion. They trust the flow. You might say they know how to let go and how to come together again. And maybe that's the lesson they carry. Not just about biology, but about being alive. That resilience doesn't always look like strength. Sometimes it looks like motion. A slow shift, a gentle split, a quiet return. So as you lie here, feeling your body settle into stillness, know that within you, motion continues. Not rushed, not frantic, but wise and soft. Your mitochondria, shaped by ancient partnerships, powered by breath, burning with inherited sikhur, are dancing. And the dance is life. There's a story inside you. A long, spiraling, ancient story written in a language that predates alphabets, ink, and memory. You can't see it. You can't hear it. But it's there, in every cell, in every breath, in every part of you that grows, repairs, or remembers. This story is your DNA, a code so small it vanishes from sight, and yet so vast it contains the full instructions to build you. Imagine entering a quiet library. Shelves stretch in every direction, filled with volumes that detail the shape of your nose, the rhythm of your sleep, the colour of your eyes, and the pace of your heartbeat. This library is not somewhere far away. It's inside every one of your cells. Each of your cells, whether it lives in your skin, your heart, or your brain, contains a full copy of this genetic library. Not a summary, not an excerpt. The entire blueprint, folded and tucked gently inside a tiny compartment called the nucleus. And that blueprint is made of DABO, deoxyribonucleic acid. At its core, DNA is a long, winding molecule shaped like a double helix. 2 strands twisting around each other like a spiral staircase. Along these strands are 4 chemical letters called bases: adenine, A, thymine T, cytosine C, and guanine G. They pair up across the 2 strands, A with T and C with G, over and over again, like musical notes repeating in a melody, like stones laid carefully in a path. You have over 3 billion of these base pairs in your genome. If you could uncoil all the DNA in your body, it would stretch beyond the solar system, and yet it all fits quietly, perfectly, within the nucleus of each cell, coiled, folded, organised into structures called chromosomes. You have 23 pairs of chromosomes, 46 in total, half from your mother, half from your father. They contain all the genetic instructions needed to make your body and guide its functions. From the first dividing cell of the embryo, this code has been carried forward, copied with astonishing precision, passed down cell by cell as you grew. But DNA isn't just about what you look like. It's about how your body works, how your stomach knows when to digest, how your skin repairs after a scratch, how your eyes adjust to light, how your brain encodes memory. All of that begins with the reading of DNA. Only a small portion of your DNA, about 1-2%, directly codes for proteins. These are the genes, and there are about 20,000 to 25,000 of them. Each gene is a set of instructions for making a specific protein, one of the countless tools your body uses to function. The rest of your DNA isn't useless. It helps regulate how and when those instructions are read. A kind of Vanwant punctuation. And though your DNA stays the same throughout your life, how it is read can change. a topic we'll explore more soon. For now, it's enough to know that your genome is not a frozen script. It's a living manuscript, copied, referenced, and subtly shaped by time, environment, and need. And what's even more humbling is this: your DNA is almost identical to everyone else's. You and I share 0.9% of the same genetic sequence. That 0.1%, a few million differences, is what accounts for all the variation in height, eye colour, metabolic speed, disease susceptibility, and more. But you are not only the result of your code, you are also the expression of it. And how that expression unfolds is shaped by the life you live, the air you breathe, the food you eat, the thoughts you think. Still, before any of that, there was just the code, floating inside that first single cell. Quiet, complete, waiting. You didn't write it, but it became yours. And now, even as you lie still, your cells are holding that code, protecting it, using it to guide tiny decisions you'll never need to notice. A scratch begins to heal, a hair falls and is replaced, a memory begins to consolidate as you drift towards sleep, and DNA is behind it all, silent, spiraling, constant, like a lullaby written in molecules. A code by itself is only potential. It waits, it holds promise. But for the body to live, for muscles to move, for thoughts to form, for healing to begin, the code must be read and something must be built. In every one of your cells, that quiet code of DNA is not just being stored. It is being translated into action, softly, constantly, like a story being read aloud to the body, one line at a time. This process is how your genes become proteins, the tools, the builders, the messengers of life. It begins with a gentle unzipping of a section of DNA, like opening a page of a tightly wound book. This is called transcription. During transcription, a molecular machine called RNA polymerase attaches to a specific gene and reads its sequence. It creates a copy, not on paper, but in the form of messenger RNA, or mRNA. This strand is like a temporary note, a slip of instruction that can travel outside the nucleus without risking the original script. You might picture this as a librarian making a handwritten copy of one page from a sacred manuscript, careful not to damage the book itself. Once made, this messenger RNA leaves the nucleus and enters the cytoplasm, the wider world of the cell. There, another elegant structure awaits, the ribosome. We met it earlier. It's the molecular workshop where proteins are assembled. Now begins translation. The ribosome reads the mRNA 3 bases at a time, like a sentence written in triplets. Each set of 3 bases, called a codon, corresponds to a specific amino acid, the small molecular building blocks that make up proteins. As the ribosome moves along the strand, it pieces these amino acids together in just the right order, forming a long, curling chain. This chain will fold into a specific shape, becoming a functioning protein. Not randomly, but guided by the precise chemistry of its components. Some proteins act like enzymes, speeding up reactions. Others carry oxygen. Some act as structural support. Others move messages between cells. A few patrol for invaders. Each one is shaped by its function. Each one begins as a quiet sentence from your DNA. And it all happens so quickly and so silently. Every moment, millions of proteins are being built throughout your body. New ones replace old. Some stay for days. Others work for only seconds. But together, they form the machinery of life. Even now, while you rest, this work continues. Proteins involved in memory are adjusting their structure to encode something you learned earlier. Proteins in your liver are managing sugar and fat. Proteins in your skin are helping renew the outermost layer. Each one was born from a gene, each one crafted with care, and the beauty of this system is its efficiency. The cell doesn't waste energy copying all its DNA at once. It selects only the genes it needs in that moment. A skin cell won't express the genes for a neuron. A heart cell won't build enzymes meant for digestion. This selective expression, allows each cell to specialise, like reading only the chapters relevant to its role. You carry the full book, but each cell chooses the page it needs, and even then, it can adjust how clearly that page is read. This leads into the world of gene regulation and epigenetics, which we'll explore in the next session. But for now, let's return to the image of a cell reading. No sound, no paper, just a folded spiral of code being opened, copied, and interpreted by the molecular machines, all floating in a sea of jelly, all orchestrated without a conductor. No noise, just rhythm, just need, just function. This is what makes DNA more than information. It makes it actionable, alive, participating. The blueprint becomes a bridge, the sentence becomes a structure, and life continues sentence by sentence, protein by protein. So while you lie here, listening perhaps to nothing at all, your body is reading, building, replacing, renewing. It doesn't need your attention, it already knows the story, and it's still unfolding. When you imagine a book, you might picture the words as fixed, ink on paper, printed once and changing. But the book of your body, the one written in DNA, is not like that. Yes, the letters are set, your genes remain stable from cell to cell. But how the book is read and which pages are opened can change, and this change is not random. It responds to your life, your experiences, your habits, your sleep, your stress, your diet, your age. This is the world of epigenetics, a quiet, elegant system of editing not the code itself, but the way the code is used. You can think of it like sticky notes on a manuscript. The original story is still there, but now certain parts are highlighted. Others are crossed out. Some pages are bookmarked for quick access. Some chapters are folded shut and left unread, and the tools behind this are chemical. One of the most common is DNA methylation, a process where small molecules called methyl groups attach to specific spots on your DNA. When these tags accumulate near a gene, they often silence it, preventing it from being read. It's not destruction, just a dimming, the gene being politely asked to stay quiet. Another layer of control involves histones, the spool-like proteins around which neurons. DNA doesn't float loose in the cell, it's wrapped tightly around these histones to save space. But the way it wraps can change. When the histones loosen, genes become more accessible. When they tighten, genes are tucked away. Chemical tags can influence this wrapping. Acetyl groups, for instance, can loosen histones, making a gene easier to read. The cell uses these tags like volume knobs, turning gene expression up or down depending on the context. And what determines that context? You do. Not by choice exactly, but through living, through moments, through environments. When you experience chronic stress, your body may tag certain genes involved in the stress response, keeping them more active than usual. When you sleep well, or eat a nutrient-rich meal, or engage in gentle movement, different sets of tags may be added or removed, altering how your cells read the code. Even a simple act like drinking green tea or stepping outside into sunlight has subtle ripple effects. Your genes listen, not as command followers, but as adapters. They notice, they adjust, and the effect of these changes can be long-lasting. Some epigenetic marks remain for years. Some may even be passed down to children. It's not inheritance in the classic genetic sense, but it's influence. Memory written in chemistry. And perhaps this is the most comforting part of all. You're not a prisoner of your DNA. You're in conversation with it. Your genes provide the script. But your life edits the performance. Of course there are limits. No amount of meditation will rewrite the instructions for eye colour or blood type. But for many aspects of health, behaviour and adaptation, your choices matter. Your environment matters. Your routines matter. Not because they change who you are, but because they help shape who you can become. So as you lie here, your body is quietly tuning itself, adjusting gene expression to match the current moment, turning down the stress response genes if it senses calm, activating repair processes as you begin to drift towards sleep. It doesn't ask for permission, it doesn't wait for your awareness, it just listens. And if you imagine your DNA as a quiet book, then your epigenetics are the fingers that turn the pages, highlight a phrase, or gently close a cover. Not to erase the story, but to help it read just right, for now. When you were born, you inherited more than a name, more than a face or a voice or a fondness for a particular lullaby. You inherited a genetic thread, a coiled whisper of ancient instructions passed from those who came before. Half of your chromosomes came from your mother, half from your father. Together they wove a new version of an old story, a remix, not a replica. Their DNA blended, shuffled, and handed down into you. And now, within every one of your cells, that inherited script continues, writing the quiet rhythms of your body. This is the essence of genetic inheritance. It's how traits travel through time. The colour of your eyes, the curl of your hair, the cadence of your metabolism. But inheritance is not just about resemblance, it's also about variation. Because every time cells divide to make egg or sperm, the genetic deck gets reshuffled. And sometimes during the copying process, a letter in the DNA sequence changes. A single base may be swapped, deleted or added. This is called a mutation. And while the word may sound dramatic, most mutations are quiet, harmless. Some do nothing at all. Some tweak how a protein folds or functions. Some make you more resistant to disease. A few might raise risks. A very few may cause inherited illnesses. But mutation is not error. Mutation is possibility. It is the way evolution experiments. Every new trait, every adaptation, every difference between species began as a small random change in DNA. Not designed, not chosen, just a gentle deviation from the norm. Over generations, these changes, some preserved, some lost, build the vast diversity of life we see today. The feathered wings of birds, the reflective eyes of cats, the language centres in the human brain. And so within your own DNA there are echoes of this creative process, traces of ancient adaptations, markers of migrations, tiny switches shaped by weather, food, predators and chance. Your genetic code is not a frozen monument, it is a living history. And sometimes that history carries difficult stories. A gene passed down that increases the risk of heart disease, a mutation that makes a protein fold incorrectly. These moments can feel heavy, like fate written too early. But even here, there is complexity. Genes are not destiny. Many require environmental triggers, others are moderated by different genes. And in many cases, awareness opens the door to prevention, support or treatment. In the quiet world of your body, no single gene holds the pen alone. And as you lie here now, letting your thoughts soften and settle, know that your genome is not a cage. It is a collection, a museum of what came before with room still for what is yet to be. Some of the code you carry is ancient, millions of years old. Some is uniquely yours, never seen before in quite this way. And if you one day pass your genes on, you will add to the story, not as a final chapter, but as a new beginning. That's what DNA is, at its heart. Not just a plan, but a possibility. A system that can preserve and change at the same time. And so, in the soft chemistry of inheritance and mutation, life continues. Not perfectly, not predictably, but beautifully unfolding. If you listen carefully, not with your ears, but with your attention, you might sense it. A rhythm beneath the heartbeat. A flow beneath the breath. A whisper through your body that speaks not in words, but in chemistry. This is the endocrine system, your body's internal messaging network made not of wires and signals, but of hormones. These are tiny molecules that travel silently through your bloodstream, carrying instructions from one part of you to another, slowly, softly, precisely. They are not the messengers of urgency. That's the nervous system's job. Hormones are the messengers of mood, of timing, of growth. They move at the speed of patience, often taking minutes or hours to deliver their message. But once delivered, their effects can last days, weeks, or even years. You might think of your body as a village. Each gland is a lighthouse sending out chemical light, and every cell is a window waiting for the right signal to glow. Let's visit a few of these chemical lanterns. One of the most familiar is cortisol, often called the stress hormone. But cortisol isn't bad. It helps your body wake up in the morning, regulate energy and respond to challenges. It tells your liver to release glucose, your heart to beat a bit faster, your mind to focus. It's only when cortisol stays too high for too long, when life feels like a constant sprint, that problems begin. Then its once helpful light becomes a glare. Another is insulin, released by your pancreas. When you eat, glucose enters your bloodstream. Insulin signals your cells to absorb it, storing energy for the hours ahead. Without insulin's guidance, blood sugar rises too high. With too much, it drops too low. It's a delicate balance, one your body manages constantly without your awareness. At night, another player enters, melatonin. Secreted by the pineal gland as darkness falls, melatonin helps prepare your brain for sleep. It doesn't knock you out. It nudges gently. It lowers your body's temperature, slows your metabolism, and encourages your mind to turn inward. It's why turning off bright lights before bed can make such a difference. Light suppresses melatonin. Darkness invites it. And then there's oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone. Released during physical touch, shared meals, and even warm conversation, oxytocin helps foster trust, calm, and connection. It softens the edges of social stress. It quiets the mind. It tells the body, you're safe here. Each of these hormones operates on a rhythm. Cortisol rises in the early morning, then slowly falls through the day. Melatonin begins its rise at dusk, peaking in the dark hours before dawn. Insulin rises and falls with meals, smoothing the peaks of energy. Oxytocin flows with moments of closeness and connection. And there are others with longer cycles still. Monthly hormonal rhythms, like those of estrogen and progesterone, guide fertility and mood. Thyroid. Hormones control the tempo of metabolism over months and years. Growth hormone helps children lengthen and bones repair, often released in pulses during sleep. From the moment you're born to the final breath you take, hormones help sculpt the phases of your life. Infancy, puberty, adulthood, aging. Each stage is marked not by sudden changes, but by chemical signals rising and falling like tides. And though you cannot feel them move, you can feel their effects when you wake with clarity or fog, when hunger nudges gently or crashes in with urgency, when sleep arrives like a slow tide or evades you entirely, when tears rise unexpectedly or joy appears in a shared glance. All of these have chemical layers, and the beauty is, these messages don't shout, they don't demand, they whisper, they move through blood, diffusing into tissues, finding the right receptor like a letter slipping into its perfect mailbox. And your cells listen, not with ears, but with presence. Each one is tuned to a specific set of signals. A liver cell listens to insulin, a uterine cell hears estrogen, a brain cell responds to cortisol, melatonin, oxytocin, and dozens of others. The entire body becomes a quiet audience, and the glands a chorus of long-distance voices. Tonight, as you lie still, this symphony continues. Melatonin is likely rising, cortisol is drifting downward. Oxytocin may stir if you've held a loved one's hand, or even just remembered a kind voice. Insulin works gently if you've eaten, all of it happening without thought, without noise beneath your conscious mind. You're not alone inside yourself. You're full of watchers, responders, slow guides of time. Your body is not just alive, it is in rhythm. And tonight, that rhythm invites rest. Your thoughts feel like whispers from inside your head. They rise and pass without much noise, drifting across the stage of your mind like actors in soft lighting. But beneath those thoughts, beneath moods and cravings, stillness and stress, are molecules. Tiny messengers shaped by experience, carried by blood, heard by the brain. Your brain does not exist apart from your body. It listens constantly to what's happening elsewhere through hormones, and it replies in kind. This loop of signal and response, body and mind, is part of what makes you feel like you. Start with cortisol, the stress hormone we met earlier. It's produced by the adrenal glands just above your kidneys, but its effect is felt most deeply in your nervous system. When you face a challenge, whether a loud noise, a difficult conversation, or a racing thought, your body prepares. Cortisol rises, heart rate quickens, your brain sharpens, scanning for solutions. You feel alert, awake, ready. But this isn't just survival. Cortisol also affects memory formation, especially of emotional events. It can shape the way your brain stores certain experiences, helping you remember what matters and avoid what hurts. Then there's melatonin, whose gentle signals ease the brain into sleep. It doesn't cause sleep directly, but it shifts your brain into night mode. Neurons slow their chatter, body temperature falls, you feel the soft pull towards stillness. Without melatonin, the body stays too bright inside. Another essential messenger is ghrelin, sometimes called the hunger hormone. Produced in the stomach, it travels through the blood and arrives at the hypothalamus, the brain's hunger hub. When ghrelin is high, you feel drawn to food. After eating, leptin rises instead, another hormone, this time from fat cells, telling the brain, you're full, you can rest. These signals don't just regulate eating, they shape mood, focus, even patience. When hunger hormones fluctuate sharply, the brain's emotional tone shifts too. That's why being tired and hungry can feel like an emotional fog, a place where even small moments feel too loud. Then there's oxytocin again. Though made in the body, its effects bloom in the brain. It softens the amygdala, your brain's fear center, and encourages trust, connection, and calm. When you hug someone or even feel emotionally close to someone through conversation, oxytocin rises, and in the brain, safety signals grow louder. Worry quiets. All of this reminds us, your brain isn't a solitary island. It is bathed in chemistry shaped by the rhythms of organs, glands, and even microbes. Yes, microbes. Because down in your digestive system lives another source of influence, the gut microbiome. These trillions of bacteria, many of which help break down food and support immunity, also produce substances that affect the brain. Some release short-chain fatty acids that travel to the brain. Others help generate serotonin, a neurotransmitter involved in mood and sleep. This is the gut-brain axis, a quiet dialogue between the mind and the belly. If you've ever felt butterflies before speaking, or a drop in appetite during sadness, you've felt that conversation. Hormones often act as the translators. They allow the gut to signal the brain. We're stressed. Be cautious. Or, we're full. Let go. Or, we're connected. Breathe easy. And in return, the brain can tell the body, we're safe now, begin repair, or we're in danger, save energy. This loop of communication is never still. Even in deep sleep, hormones and brain structures are adjusting your temperature, blood pressure, and dream tone. When you sleep, the brain is not inactive, it's reorganizing, cleaning, listening to your body's signals as carefully as it does during waking. And the quality of those signals matters. Poor sleep disrupts hormonal timing. High stress raises cortisol and dampens melatonin. Irregular meals confuse ghrelin and leptin. But the reverse is also true. When rhythms are honoured, through rest, nourishment, breath, the entire system steadies. The brain becomes clearer. The mood softens. Hormones are not emotions, but they shape the space in which emotions happen. They tilt the stage, dim the lights, choose the tempo, and you, your consciousness, your feelings, your sense of self, move within that space, sensing the changes even if you can't name them. Tonight, your brain is still listening to insulin, to melatonin, to oxytocin if you've felt love today, to cortisol if it's been a long week, to the gut quietly whispering its signals. And slowly those voices will adjust. Melatonin will rise, cortisol will fall, the orchestra will play softer, and you'll begin to drift. If you could listen to your body, not just its thoughts, not just its emotions, but its very movement, you would hear something flowing, a quiet river, moving beneath your skin, turning with every breath, carrying warmth, carrying life. This river is your blood. It winds through more than 60,000 miles of vessels, enough to circle the earth more than twice, branching, twisting, narrowing to threads and widening to great pulsing currents. It is always in motion, it never sleeps, and it touches nearly every cell you contain. When your heart beats, it doesn't just pump, it sends oxygen, hormones, nutrients, waste, sends signals, immune cells, warmth, and information. Your blood is not just a fluid, it is a transport system, a silent courier or service running on a perfect schedule. Let's look inside. If you took a single drop and placed it under a microscope, you'd see a flurry of movement. Red blood cells gliding by like soft coins, their centres dipped inwards like cushions. These cells carry oxygen, picked up from your lungs and delivered to your muscles, your brain, your skin, even your fingertips as they rest. Red blood cells are plentiful, about 5 million in every microliter of blood, and they live for roughly 20 days. They have no nucleus, no DNA, no abilities to divide or repair. Their only job is to carry oxygen, and they do it with quiet devotion. Alongside them float white blood cells, fewer in number, but vital in defence. Some scout, some attack, some remember. They are the immune system's messengers and soldiers, floating peacefully until called upon. You'll also see platelets, tiny cell fragments that help you heal. When a vessel is damaged, platelets gather and form a soft plug, beginning the clotting process. No drama, just swift, steady response. And then there is the plasma, the pale yellow liquid that makes up more than half your blood's volume. Plasma carries everything that isn't a cell. Sugars, salts, hormones, proteins, waste products. The music of the body moves through plasma. Slow rhythms, fast changes, silent deliveries. Imagine for a moment how complex this system is and how gently it works. When you eat, nutrients are absorbed into the blood and carried to where they're needed. Amino acids to muscles, glucose to the brain, fats to storage or energy use. When you breathe, oxygen is absorbed into red blood cells. Carbon dioxide is collected for the return trip. When you sleep, your blood continues its rounds, delivering melatonin, collecting waste from brain metabolism, sending oxygen to tissues that heal in the dark. And when you're sick, or healing, or scared, or safe, blood adjusts. It thickens or thins. It speeds up or slows down. It becomes warmer or cooler depending on what's needed. It's not dramatic, it's constant. And yet we rarely think of it. We feel the beat of our heart, perhaps, the warmth in our face, the pulsing in our fingertips. But the actual journey of the blood, its destinations, its cargo, its perfect timing remains unseen. That's part of its beauty. It does not ask to be noticed. It only asks to continue. And the vessels themselves? They're living structures. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. Veins bring it back. Capillaries, the tiniest of all, connect the two, allowing the exchange to occur. Oxygen out, carbon dioxide in. They are the meeting points, the marketplaces, the whispering bridges between cells and the flow. If a single red blood cell were a traveller, it would journey from the lungs to the farthest reaches of your body and back again in about 1 minute, and it would repeat that journey thousands of times a day, never stopping, never choosing its path, but always returning home. Even now, as you lie still, this system hums beneath you. It keeps you warm. It keeps you nourished. It carries hormones released by your endocrine glands. It delivers immune cells trained to recognize danger. It flows to wounds, to muscles, to the brain. And perhaps most comfortingly, it flows without your help. You do not need to remind your heart to beat. You do not need to think about oxygen being delivered. You do not need to plan which cell goes where. It is already happening. You're already being carried. All throughout this journey inside your body, we've seen whispers and waves, hormones drifting through the bloodstream, blood gently flowing with messages, organs coordinating quietly in the background. But some signals move faster, much faster. Some don't float, they flash. Some don't wait, they respond. And that is the realm of your nervous system. Whereas hormones take their time drifting through the bloodstream like slow-moving lanterns, the nervous system works with speed. Electricity travelling across cells, reaching from brain to body and back again in less than a second. It is your electric partner. The spark behind your reflexes. The flicker behind your thoughts. Imagine, if you will, a vast network of wires, thread-like, branching, coiling across your entire body. These are your neurons, or nerve cells. There are over 86 billion in your brain alone, and trillions more forming long highways through your spine and limbs. Each one has a cell body, a long axon to send signals, and tiny branching arms called dendrites to receive them. These signals travel as electrical impulses, brief flickers of voltage created by the movement of charged ions across the cell membrane. It's not the electricity of light bulbs or thunder. It's quieter, more like the delicate charge in static, amplified and directed across a living wire. When a signal needs to travel from a touch on your skin, a thought in your mind, or a decision to move, it begins with a neuron firing. This impulse travels down the axon, reaching the tip, where it meets a synapse, a tiny gap between two cells. And here, the electrical signal becomes chemical. Molecules called neurotransmitters are released, crossing the synapse and binding to receptors on the next neuron. That cell then fires in turn, continuing the message. It's like passing a note across a room, not shouted, not rushed, but precise and quiet. This process repeats millions of times per second, allowing your brain to monitor your body and your body to inform your brain. It's how you pull your hand back from something hot before you realise it was dangerous. It's how you catch your balance before your mind has time to worry. This is the beauty of reflexes, direct circuits that bypass higher thought for the sake of speed. They exist in the spinal cord, which acts like a local relay centre. Not everything must go to the brain. Sometimes the body decides on its own, just fast enough to keep you safe. But when signals do reach the brain, they are processed, interpreted, remembered. And this is where electricity becomes more than just function. It becomes feeling. The nervous system doesn't just protect and direct. It experiences. It holds memory. It crafts emotion. It translates chemical signals like those from hormones into conscious experience. So what happens when you feel startled? A sound occurs. Neurons in your ear fire. The signal travels to the brainstem. Your body tenses before you even decide what it was. That's your nervous system acting quickly, without pause. But when you feel calm, when you're wrapped in a blanket, safe and dull, other circuits take over. The parasympathetic system, the branch of your autonomic nervous system that slows the heart, deepens the breath, encourages digestion and repair. A system designed not for action, but for restoration, and it too is electric. The nervous system doesn't work alone. It partners with the endocrine system, with the circulatory system, with the gut, the skin, the immune response. Each signal layered upon another, some instant, some delayed. Sometimes electricity leads, sometimes it follows, but always it's listening. Even in sleep, your neurons remain active. Brain waves slow, dreams flicker. Memory is replayed and consolidated. And during waking, the brain becomes a symphony of overlapping frequencies, some fast and sharp, others slow and deep. And all of this, from a heartbeat to a poem, from a twitch to a tear, begins with one small cell sending a silent spark to another. You carry this network within you. You don't need to understand every circuit. You don't need to trace every wire. All you need to know is that your body is alive with signal. Even now, as your eyes begin to grow heavy, as the world quiets and your muscles soften, your nervous system is at work, keeping breath flowing, adjusting heart rhythm, maintaining warmth. Not because it's told to, but because this is what it does. Quiet motion, gentle sparks, watching over you in the dark. You are surrounded, not by noise or people, but by something quiet, something constant, something that has held you from the very beginning. Your skin. It's easy to forget it's there. To move through your day, your life, and notice only what skin feels, not what it is. But skin is not just the thing you touch the world with. It is a world unto itself. It is your largest organ, stretching over 2 square meters in area, weighing several kilograms. And it's not a shell. It's alive. From the outside it seems like a smooth surface. But look closer. Beneath that outermost layer is an intricate structure. Layered, layered, layered. At the top is the epidermis, a barrier made of tightly packed cells. These cells are born in the lower layers and rise slowly, pushed upward over the course of weeks. As they move, they fill with keratin, harden, and eventually flake away. This layer renews constantly, quietly. You're always shedding, always replacing, always becoming new. Beneath that is the dermis, a web of collagen, blood vessels, nerves and hair follicles. Hold your skin's strength and elasticity. When you blush, it's the dermis that fills with warm blood. When you're scratched, it's the dermis that begins to mend. Deeper still lies the hypodermis, or subcutaneous layer, where fat stores provide insulation, protection, and soft edges to your form. But skin's more than structure. It is a shield. It keeps moisture in. It keeps invaders out. It holds your organs together, lets you bend without breaking. It protects against sunlight, wind, bacteria, sharp corners, and the everyday world. And yet this shield is permeable, not perfect. It lets light warm you. It allows you to feel a breeze. It lets in molecules, lotions, medications, even scents. It is both barrier and bridge. Perhaps most quietly fascinating of all, your skin's not just you. It is also home to billions of microscopic guests, bacteria, fungi, viruses that form your skin microbiome. These tiny inhabitants help protect you. They take up space so harmful microbes can't. They interact with your immune system, calming inflammation and preventing overreaction. Some even produce substances that keep the skin healthy, and they're not randomly placed. Different areas of your body host different communities. The crook of your elbow, the back of your neck, the tips of your fingers, all with distinct ecosystems quietly thriving. You might picture your skin as a soft, living garden, not a sterile wall. A place where your body meets the world with openness and order. But beyond its function as barrier and habitat, your skin's also a thermostat. When you're cold, blood vessels in your dermis constrict, preserving heat. When you're warm, they dilate, releasing heat through the skin. Sweat forms, cooling you through evaporation. These adjustments happen automatically every second of the day. You might not feel the shift, but your skin notices. And it responds. And perhaps the most intimate role your skin plays, the one that feels most human, is its ability to sense. Your skin contains an enormous network of sensory receptors. Some detect light touch, others vibration. Some feel warmth, others notice stretch, pressure, sharpness, wetness, or cold. All of this information flows inward, travelling to your brain, forming the foundation of physical experience. The weight of a blanket, the bite of winter air, the soft brush of a sleeve, the tingle of sun on your back. These sensations form a language, one your skin speaks fluently, even when you're not listening. And it's not just sensation, it's emotion. The skin flushes with embarrassment. It pales with fear. It tingles with anticipation. It warms with closeness. These are not random events. They are the skin responding to your inner world, reflecting it quietly on the outside. You don't have to explain how you feel. Sometimes your skin does it for you. Even now, as you settle under your covers, your skin adjusts, cooling a little as your core temperature lowers, sensing the weight of the fabric, noticing the stillness in the room, maybe even detecting the faint warmth of a nearby body or the memory of one. It's easy to think of the skin as something passive, something that simply holds us in, but it's not passive, it's participating in protection, in connection, in healing, in awareness. It is quite literally your surface of self. And while you may not always notice it, your skin is always with you, gently holding the world at just the right distance. There is a kind of language you spoke long before you learned words. It wasn't made of grammar or sound. It didn't need to be translated. It was felt. A hand on your back. A gentle squeeze of your fingers. The warmth of skin resting against skin. Touch is the first sense to develop in the womb. Before you could see, before you could hear, your skin was already listening, and it still is. Beneath every square inch of skin are nerve endings tuned to the subtlest of pressures. The brush of a feather, the sudden prick of cold air, the warmth of another hand. These nerves don't just send signals to your brain, they help you build meaning. Because touch is not just sensation, it's interpretation. The same pressure can feel soothing or alarming depending on context. A tap in the dark might startle. A hand on your shoulder might calm. A hug might soften the edges of fear. Your skin's a translator, not only of temperature or pressure, but of emotion. Scientists have even identified specific nerve fibers, C-tactile afferents, that respond primarily to gentle, caressing touch. These signals don't rush to the brain's logic centers. They go to emotional areas, including the insula, where the body's internal state is registered and felt. This kind of touch, slow, intentional, caring, can lower heart rate, reduce cortisol, increase oxytocin, and bring a sense of safety without a word being spoken. That's why touch matters so deeply, and it stays with us. Your skin holds memories. Scars, freckles, wrinkles, each a soft bookmark of time. A scar may no longer hurt, but it still speaks. A stretch mark may fade, but it remembers growth. Even the absence of touch in certain seasons of life can leave a kind of emotional indentation, a space waiting to be filled. And yet skin is resilient. It heals. When damaged, skin begins to repair itself almost immediately. Cells multiply, blood rushes in. Platelets form a clot. Fibroblasts build new tissue. Collagen is laid down in scaffolds. And over days or weeks, the broken place begins to close. Sometimes it closes perfectly, sometimes not. But always there is effort. Always the body tries. And in this effort, there is a quiet kind of memory, not just cellular, but personal, because sometimes touch is the thing that reminds you that you are here, that you are not alone. A dog's paw on your leg, the press of a friend's arm beside yours, a shared blanket, a gentle brushing of hair behind the ear. These small gestures don't just comfort, they anchor. And even now, as you lie still, your skin's still part of the conversation. It notices the coolness of the pillow, the weight of the covers, the shifting air around your ankles. If someone held your hand right now, you wouldn't need to look. You would know, because your skin has always known. It is the outermost part of you, but also the first part that meets the world. It is how you first felt love, how you knew safety, how you discovered edges, where you end and someone else begins, and maybe, on some level, it's how you remember who you are, not through appearance or scars or even sensation, but through connection. You're not just a brain in a body, you're a body that feels, that remembers, that listens through skin. So tonight, Whether you're wrapped in warmth or lying beside someone or simply alone with breath and thought, know that your skin is still keeping watch, holding you in, holding the world gently out, and always quietly feeling. There is no single conductor inside you. No one cell, no master switch, no organ shouting orders, and yet your body moves, heals, grows and adapts with breathtaking precision. It isn't a machine, it's more like a symphony, a complex collection of parts, each with its own rhythm, its own voice, all somehow keeping time together. Every part of you, from the smallest strand of DNA to the largest organ in your chest, participates in this music. Cells dividing, hormones drifting, neurons sparking, blood flowing, microbes chattering in silent chemical tones. None in charge, all in conversation. This is the quiet miracle of homeostasis, the body's ability to maintain balance in a world that never stops shifting. The room warms, and your skin begins to cool you. The blood sugar rises, and insulin flows. Stress rises, and cortisol nudges you to act, then slowly ebbs as calm returns. You run, and your heart speeds up. You rest, and it slows again. You sleep, and everything resets. No meetings, no announcements, just response and return over and over again. Even as you lie here now, doing nothing at all, your systems are coordinating, aligning oxygen needs with breath rate, digesting past meals and quiet pulses, keeping your temperature just right beneath the covers. And it's not just happening, it's happening together. Consider how your microbiome speaks to your gut, which speaks to your brain, which speaks to your hormones, which guide your mood, which affect your immune function, which changes your microbial balance. It's not a line, it's a loop, a dance of feedback, a circle of whispers passed gently hand to hand. The cell listens to the tissue listens to the organ listens to the whole, and the whole becomes something more than its parts. You, a living harmony of tiny signals, layered systems, and unfolding needs. Each part has its own music. Your heart plays a steady drumbeat, soft and constant. Your lungs add rhythm, rising, falling, quieting. Your blood is the current, the river beneath the melody. Your nerves are the flickers of light, the tremble of strings. Your hormones are the sustained tones, the echoes, the warmth between notes. Your skin is the boundary of the concert hall, felt, responsive, alive. Your microbes, though not fully you, are part of the soundscape, adding texture and surprise. And your DNA is the score carried in every player's pocket, not shouted, not fixed, but quietly referenced, adjusted with each performance. And there's something else. Unlike a human orchestra, your body doesn't rehearse. It doesn't practice scales. It simply plays, moment by moment, adjusting as it goes. Mistakes happen, instruments falter, but the music continues, sometimes slower, sometimes softer, but always moving, and you don't have to manage it. You're not the conductor. You're the stage, the audience, and the music itself. It's easy to forget that, especially when the body feels tired, or something goes wrong, or systems become noisy instead of harmonious. But even in those moments, even in illness, in stress, in change, the body tries, it rebalances, it finds new rhythms, it compensates. This is why you can live with one kidney, or with half a liver, or after losing entire sections of intestine. It's why you can adapt to higher altitudes, different diets, changing light. The symphony doesn't stop, it rearranges, and in that rearranging there is resilience. So as you lie here, carried gently by breath, know this. You are not static, you are not fragile, you are a system in motion, a symphony of quiet intelligence, not perfect, but complete and still playing. Things go wrong, of course. The body stumbles, a cell divides in error, a virus slips through, a hormone misfires, a message doesn't arrive where it should, a memory frays, a bruise blossoms. You feel tired when you expected energy. You catch a cold, a joint aches, a rash appears uninvited. Something doesn't work quite the way it used to. But the deeper story, the one that often goes unnoticed, is this. Most of the time, your body finds its way back. It heals, it repairs, it adapts, and it does so not with drama, but with a kind of quiet resilience, an internal commitment to balance, even when balance feels out of reach. Cut your skin, and within seconds, platelets rush in. They clot, they stop the bleeding. Fibroblasts begin weaving new tissue. The immune system clears debris. New cells migrate and multiply. Eventually the wound closes. You might forget about it. But your body never did. Catch a virus and your immune system activates with precision. T cells scan for invaders. B cells make antibodies. Fever rises, not as punishment, but as a deliberate change in environment, making it harder for the virus to thrive. Then slowly, normal temperature returns. Hormones too rebalance after chaos. Cortisol climbs in moments of stress, but is pulled back down when safety returns. Insulin adjusts meal by meal. Melatonin responds to light and dark, drifting like a tide. Even your microbiome, exposed to antibiotics or dietary shifts, works to rebuild itself. It seeks coherence, even after disruption. This capacity isn't just healing, it's a kind of grace. Because while pain and illness may draw your attention, they are exceptions in a sea of ongoing maintenance, much of which you never notice. Enzymes correcting miscopied DNA, cells recycling their worn-out parts, neurons pruning unnecessary connections, bones reinforcing where stress was placed. Your body is never still. Even in rest, it is restoring. And with time, that rhythm changes. That's what we call aging. Not a failure, not a decline. A slowing. Cells divide more carefully. Hormones shift their cycles, skin thins, bones settle, memory moves with softer steps. The music of the body doesn't stop, it simply changes key. And this too is harmony, because the body is not designed to last forever. It is designed to respond for as long as it can, to stay tuned, even as strings grow looser, as breath slows, as steps soften. You're not less whole because you change. You're still coordinated, still layered, still alive with intelligence. And part of that intelligence is knowing how to let go of what's not needed, of what has passed, of what can be rebuilt in a gentler form. There is something deeply peaceful in that idea, that healing isn't always about returning to what was, but about finding a new rhythm that still holds you. So tonight, if you feel weary, if something hurts, if something doesn't work like it once did, know that your body has not abandoned you. It is still trying, still learning, still listening to itself. Your systems are not perfect, but they are devoted to restoring, to adjusting, to doing the best they can with what's available. And even if they don't always succeed, their effort is constant. Their commitment, quiet but unwavering. There is intelligence in you, not the kind that solves math problems or builds machines, but the kind that breathes without thinking, that repairs without instruction, that forgives disruptions and simply begins again. That too is a kind of love, not loud but lasting. You've just taken a journey, though you haven't moved at all. A journey inward, through spaces too small to see, too quiet to hear, and yet they are the very spaces that hold you together, moment by moment. Let's take one last gentle breath through it all. You began with microbes, those tiny companions, trillions of them, living across your skin, your lungs, and especially in your gut. They aren't invaders, they're neighbours, gardeners, silent collaborators helping digest your food, calm your immune system, and even shape your thoughts, not separate from you, but part of you. You travelled into your cells, each one like a tiny home. You saw the parts inside, nuclei holding DNA, ribosomes making proteins, mitochondria turning sugar into energy, so many types, skin cells, muscle cells, neurons, immune cells, each with its own job, its own rhythm, its own place in the symphony. Inside those cells, you met your mitochondria, ancient inherited engines once separate from us, now part of our very identity. You saw how they flicker with energy, keeping the lights on for every heartbeat, every thought, every breath. and how even they age, slow, and adapt as you do. You pause to look at the DNA that lives in every cell, curled, coiled, and carrying the full instructions for making you. And you learn that those instructions aren't static, they're flexible, responsive. They change with stress, with rest, with joy and grief and sleep and sunlight. That's epigenetics, your life quietly editing the story it's telling. Then you drifted outward again into blood, that soft river moving beneath your skin. You saw the red cells carrying oxygen, the white ones guarding against harm, the platelets healing wounds, and the plasma flowing like a tide, delivering warmth and whispering messages. And you heard the language of hormones, cortisol rising with urgency, melatonin flowing with the dark, insulin balancing your meals, oxytocin wrapping you in the comfort of closeness. These were messengers not of speed, but of meaning, of timing, of emotion. You lit up your nervous system, an electric web of signals flickering across neurons through synapses, down the spine and back again. The body reacting before the mind can catch up, the body knowing long before you know. You reach the skin, the surface of self, the shield, the interface of the sensation of the safety, the storyteller of scars and touches and memory, the place where inside becomes outside and where love, pain and presence leave their soft signatures. And all of this, every flicker, every pulse, every renewal, isn't chaos. It's harmony. It's your body playing itself forward each day, not with perfection, but with patience. It breaks sometimes, it loses its place, but it finds the rhythm again. It learns, it heals, it listens, and even now in stillness, it's doing all of this for you, quietly, faithfully, without your permission. You don't need to do anything, just rest. If you feel gratitude rising, soft and slow, you're not alone. Many do. Not a loud gratitude, just a whisper. A quiet thank you, offered inward, to the cells, to the breath, to the unseen, unfelt systems that have carried you to this moment. They've asked for so little and given you everything. You don't need to say the words. Your body already knows. And now, as you lie still in the dark, the final movement begins. Sleep isn't absence. It's not a pause or a shutdown. Sleep is a transition, a shift in the music of your body from active crescendos to something softer, like a gentle melody repeating under moonlight. Because even now in stillness, you're not silent. Your breath moves, your heart hums, your cells continue their quiet tasks. Sleep is not the end of function, it's the beginning of restoration. As your body settles into rest, something remarkable happens. Hormones adjust their balance, melatonin rises fully now, coaxing your brain into quieter waves. Growth hormone pulses, guiding repair. Cortisol lowers its voice. Systems that were busy digesting and reacting now shift to cleaning, mending, remembering. In your brain, glial cells sweep away metabolic debris, a soft washing of the day's residue. Synapses adjust. Unused connections may fade. Important ones strengthen. This is how memory forms, not by effort, but by stillness. Your immune system, too, uses the night to recalibrate. T cells patrol, inflammation lowers, energy that once went to movement is redirected to healing. Damaged tissue is quietly stitched back together. Even small wounds, unnoticed during the day, begin to mend more deeply in sleep. And your heart, freed from the rush of decision and activity, beats more slowly, more evenly. Your blood vessels relax. Your muscles release their tension like strings loosening in a harp after the music ends. All of this happens without instruction. You don't have to ask for it. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to try. It is the final grace of the body that letting go is part of the design. And in this letting go, you return to a place you've visited thousands of times before. A place where time softens, thought dissolves, and your awareness floats, weightless and safe. You don't have to reach it. It's already reaching for you, even as your thoughts slow, even as your limbs grow heavier, even as the room fades into stillness. Your inner symphony continues, not loud, not bright, just steady, just enough. You may drift now. There's nothing more you need to remember, nothing you need to do. Your body is holding you. Your breath is enough. Your systems are tuned to care for you, even in dreams. And when you wake again, hours or moments from now, this quiet intelligence will still be here, always watching, always adjusting, always playing the music of life beneath your skin. So if your thoughts begin to wander, let them. If your breath deepens, let it. If you begin to forget this voice, that's okay. It means you're doing exactly what you're meant to. Let go. Let the silent symphony carry you home. Sleep well.